you wanted to cover more or less the standard. You wanted to cover some different types when it comes to the Presa Canario. So jump right in. Let me know what you were thinking. What are your thoughts?
Well, so what I did was just that way there's no dispute, as I talk and as people listen. I actually took the most debatable parts of all three standards where I could have pulled a fourth standard, but it really is kind of the same thing as as one of the others, so I just left it alone. So, right now I have in front of me my notes are the Presa Canario standards from 1982 to 2013 because there were revisions. So I took the most important or the most debatable parts that people are always, oh, it's this, it's going to be this, and the standard says this, and that standard says this. So I took them all and I got them all right here in front of me. And we're going to, we're going to read them, and we're going to go over them, and I'm going to compare them, and, that way. And with the pictures that you put up, people who are familiar with the FCI, and there used to be an FIC, but that club is long gone. And then the UKC standard, and then the original standard from 1989 that was created in Las Palmas. There's pictures that go along with that, and the UKC standard and the FCI standard picture of a Presa Canario. Man, them dogs don't look nothing close at all. There's no comparison to the pictures that they're showing. One you recognize as a Presa, and the other one you'd be like, what is that, like some kind of like shepherd mix or something like that? Like it just doesn't, and it doesn't even fit, the picture doesn't even fit the standard.
Wow, there's that much of a difference.
Yeah, and it's according to the standard, and the standard still doesn't even match the picture. So, that's why, the second part, this is how I wanted to do it. That way, most people know this, but for the new people who are listening and don't know, I'm going to start with the 1989 standard, and the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the color, which is we're going to start with Brindle or Bardino, and we're going to explain that later on. The Bardino, Majoero, we're going to go through all of that, so people get a better understanding of it because it's hard to get an exact definition of those words together, but Bardino or Bordino means brindle. That's what it means. So the color, this is the 1989 standard, and I'm reading it. It says brindle throughout its range, from very warm dark to very light neutral gray and blonde. Then it says black. Now, before I even go to black, it says throughout its range. So that means a total. So that means anywhere from, like it just said, from a very warm dark to a light neutral gray. Which is why you had dogs like Arbaco, and I sent you a couple pictures that they'll see when you run this part two of a couple blue brindle-ish looking dogs. Even some people like to argue that doesn't happen, but the standard does not disqualify or does not say anything or exclude blue brindle. It doesn't exclude it. It says all or total, and like I know, all means total, and total means all, and that means everything. That's included within that range, like I just read. So the next color is black. Now, originally, when this standard was first drawn up, black was not accepted. Solid black dogs were not accepted, but they did exist. A year later, they would add black to the standard. So next we have fawn throughout their range. Even in the arena, it says sometimes they can present white spots around the neck that can extend towards the skull or on the extremities, although it's desired that the presence of white be as reduced as possible. Now, they usually have a white patch on the chest, more or less long. The mask is always dark in color and can reach eye level. Now, it says it can reach eye level. So this is why I want to do this comparison of the standards. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go to the next part of this same standard. We're still on the 1989 standard, and I'm going to go back and compare the differences. So the height at the withers for the male is 24.02 inches to 25.98 inches, and this is an exact measurement from centimeters. Females, 22.44 inches to 24.41 inches. It says in specimens that can exceed the height limit in a correct proportion between the dimensions of the extremities and the volume of the trunk must be required. So it's telling you there, it's saying that it's giving you some kind of leeway. but it doesn't really tell you how much. So the weight. Average males range from 99.21 pounds to 125.66 pounds. Average weight in females from 88.18 pounds to 110.23 pounds. Now the back line. This is a very important part of the dog, and this has always been a very more controversial than the color.
Mm-hmm.
It says, for the back line, straight, raising slightly towards the croup, apparent saddle on the back, just behind the withers. So right there, it's describing a dog with a higher back. That's what it says. Straight, rising slightly towards the croup, which is the hocks, the back. So now we're going to jump into the UKC standard, and this was 2003 color. And this is what it says for the UKC 2003 standard. It says any shade of fawn, black, and brindle in any combination of those colors. Which to me is a little confusing how it's written. Any shade of fawn, black, and brindle in any combination of those colors. So again, it's saying any kind of brindle. There's even when you look at the, like I know, and everyone else who's listening knows that when you go through a dog standard, it has, the faults, the defects, and the things like that. It never disqualifies any blue brindle. And I'm only mentioning this because someone made a comment about Arbaco. So, with a baseless claim, that's the thing is, if you're going to talk about this stuff, at least have some proof behind it, because you could be telling the truth. But if you don't have proof of what you're saying, no one's going to care, because they're going to keep referring to what's in front of me right now, regardless of how correct you may or may not be.
Mm-hmm.
So it says the face must have a black or dark brown mask. Now I know you're listening. I know everyone else is listening. So we're already getting differences from the 1989 standard to the UKC standard. It says the face must have a black or dark brown mask that does not extend over the eyes, with or without a white blaze or patch on the head. Minimum white markings may appear anywhere between the chest and throat or on the toes. Now, serious faults. Now, this is in the color. I'm reading this straight from the standard. Serious fault. Mask that extends over the eye. Disqualifications. Absence of a dark mask. White markings covering more than 20% of the dog. Coat, color, or pattern other than described above. Now, it said brindle in any combination of those colors. It's still kind of vague there. A coat, color, pattern that's other than what's described, but you kind of described everything. You said all brindles. Now, let me jump back up to the 1989 standard before I go to the FCI revised 2013 standard. So it says here, the mask is always dark in color and can reach eye level. Now, it can reach eye level. That doesn't mean, and reading that doesn't mean that it will reach eye level. It's saying that it can reach eye level. But when you go back down here to the UKC standard, and it talks about the mask, it says the face must have a black or dark brown mask that does not extend over the eye. But there it's saying it's a slight difference, but it's trying to present something similar, but the wording it always confused me, which is why I always would like to print these standards out and highlight them and lay them next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So let's continue on with the size. It says, size. Desirable height at the withers for a mature male is 23 to 26 inches. Desirable height at the withers for a mature female is 22 to 25 inches.
And this is UKC?
Now, this is the UKC 2003 standard.
Okay.
Slightly different from the 1989 standard that was drawn up in the islands. Here we go. It says minimum weight. So now we have a minimum weight. Minimum weight for a mature male is 100 pounds, and minimum weight for a mature female is 85 pounds. So and that's where it stops. But we're going to read it because it doesn't really give any more than that. So we know what the minimum is. So what is the actual maximum? And we're gonna go through that as well. So let's get back to the body. This is always one of the most important things. A properly proportioned presa is about 20% longer than it is tall, and the length from the front leg should approximately be equal to 1.5 of the dog's height. Females may be slightly longer in the body. The withers are slightly elevated, and the back and the loin are strong without prominent musculature. The top line extends slightly toward, so there it is again. The top line extends slightly towards the croak, which is just set higher than at the withers. Now, remind you, I said when you go look at the standard and the diagram that they show of the presa, if you think about the picture that I sent you, you even posted it on the first part. That dog does not have a slightly higher back at all. That dog had a straight back. Mm-hmm. And that's the UKC picture that is attached to this standard. Mm-hmm. So, this is why I had to do so much research, because I'm like, was this an accident? Did a blind man draw it? It's like, what is going on that this picture does not match the description? So, again, it says the croup is of medium length and wide, slightly sloping. Females normally have slightly wider croups. The loin is moderately short, muscular, deep, and with moderate tuck up. The ribs are well arched. Excuse me. The ribs are well arched. The times that doesn't even make sense what they're saying. Okay, never mind. The brisket extends to the elbow. The chest is broad and deep with well-developed pectoral muscles. Ideally, the circumference of the deepest part of the chest is equal almost 1.5 times the dog's height at the withers. Serious faults. Now, serious faults, it says, a shallow chest, unequal, it says basically equal croak and withers. So that's saying that if it has a straight back, that's a serious fault. So we've been through two standards, right? And they both describe a breed with a slightly elevated back. Body too short, sway back, or roach back. So let's jump down to the FCI 2013 standard. Color. All shades of brindle. There's that all again. All shades of brindle. From warm dark brown to pale gray or blonde. Anyone knows that if you keep breeding black dogs together, eventually you're going to throw some solid white dogs and some blue dogs. That's just how it works, man. That's just how the colors are. They're dilutions. So it says, all shades of brindle, from warm dark brown to pale gray or blonde, all shades of fawn to sandy. White marks are acceptable on the chest, at the base of the neck, or the throat. 4 feet and toes of hind feet, but these should be kept to a minimum. The mask is always black and should not spread above eye level. So now we're starting to see some similarities between the three standards. Now, size and weight. Height at the withers. It says the male 23.62 to 25.98 inches. Females 22.05 to 24.41 inches. For very typical specimens, a tolerance of 0.79 inches over or under these limits is accepted. Minimum weight for males is 110.23 pounds. Minimum weight for females is 88.18 pounds. Now, the UKC didn't have a maximum weight, but the FCI standard does have a maximum weight. And the maximum weight for males is 143.3 pounds. For females is 121.25 pounds. Now we're going to jump down to the body. This is still FCI 2013 standard. Revised. Keep that in mind. Body, long, broad, and deep. Top line, straight, without deformities, and sustained by well-developed but barely visible muscles, rising slightly from the withers to the croak. The height at the croak is 0.39 to 0.79 of an inch more than it is at the height of the withers. Medium length, broad and rounded, should not be long as it would not be too long as it would limit movement. The female is usually broader. So those are the standards. Those are the standards that we're using right now, because you got guys who are like, I only breed to the 1989 standard. You got guys who only breeding to the UKC standard, and you've got guys breeding to the FCI 2013 revised standard. So I actually have to go back, and when I said that we're pulling the dog two different directions, we're actually pulling the dog in three, but possibly four different directions. And I'll explain the fourth one as we go, as we continue on. So you have some similarities, and then you have some differences. You have a standard that doesn't have a maximum weight. So does that mean that the dog can be 200, 220 pounds, and that's okay? That's because I just don't see a dog getting that big according to that standard that is going to fall in line to anything that standard is going to say after a certain point in time. That dog is going to exceed everything. There's no way that it can maintain, those minimums or the standard weights when you don't have a maximum. I mean, the standard heights and the standard weights when you don't have a maximum weight limit. So I think that's why some people are like, I've got 150, 160, 170 pound presses. Actually, I've seen them all the way up to 185 pounds. And that dog had almost no movement. Like no movement at all. Mm-hmm. And that dog was produced at Bravo line. And that guy's got some decent dogs down there, in my opinion, but the dog was sold to someone else. So I can't say that was something that Bo did down there, because that would have to be something that the client did. And I don't know the guy's name, but there's a video. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen it. If you're really into presses, there's no way that you don't know this video that I'm talking about. If you've watched, anything from Bravo Kennel, that dog needed a step ladder to get out of the damn truck. How is a dog like that going to protect you? If you know what I mean, like right. He needs assistance getting in and out of the truck, like he's disabled. Like that's crazy. And the vet told him that the dog was perfectly healthy, this, that, and the other. Man, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see a pin hip on that animal, but that's a lot of weight on any animal, in my opinion. That's almost 200 pounds. So we've got these three standards, and I've got guys. Even though every standard said that black is acceptable, I know some guys that follow the FCI standard to a T, but they refuse to acknowledge the black dog. Then you have guys who agree with, I guess you could say, some guys agree with all three standards, but they don't want to do anything with dogs that have any kind of white on them, at all. Maybe they'll give you a little bit on the chest or the chin or the toes, but outside of that, they're going to tell you your dog's a mutt. And, I sent you, I don't know how many pictures from 1994 to 1998, all in between those years of dogs with various amounts of white that were anywhere from 20 to 90%, like I said in part one. So the Presa has, it's being pulled in many directions, many directions because of these standards. Now, I'm not aware of many other breeds, and this is I'm not aware of it. I'm pretty familiar with a good amount of breeds, and those are just the breeds that I've worked with, or that I may have trained for clients or things like that. So I would obviously know those dog standards. I'm not aware of dogs that are still being bred, or single breed that is still being bred to 3 or 4, or just more than one different standard at the same time. Unless it's like you have the bull terrier and the mini bull terrier. You know what I mean? That's something different. But we have one dog, again, like I said, that's being pulled in multiple directions. For me, that's bad business for the Presa. Mm-hmm. Just because, at the end of the day, the Bardino Majoero itself is basically considered to be almost extinct. So if you lose that dog, if you lose that breed, even though I know some people want to say, it's not really a breed, but the problem is you can say that it's not a breed, but anywhere you look, anywhere you Google, anyone you talk to, they're going to tell you, and it's going to say that it is a breed of dog. So that's what it's going to be until someone has some physical proof to prove otherwise. And if it hasn't happened by now, I doubt that it's going to happen ever. So, some people just need to kind of drop that and move on. But if you lose that specific animal that you need to create the Perro de Presa Canario, what's going to happen if we ruin the dog as humans? Because we tend to do that with animals. We tend to do that with a lot. We tend to do that with our own lives and our own children.
Right.
So if we lose that dog, there isn't going to be a true recreation, because that dog is extremely important, which is why I wanted to talk a little bit about the Bardino Majoero and, the name and what it means. And like I said earlier, it means brindle. And the term or the word Majoero is actually, there's two things with that. It's actually a cheese that has that direct name from Fuerteventura. But what that also means is anyone or anything from Fuerteventura is called Majoero. Like how, in Guatemala, they call each other champín, or if it's a girl, champiña. And I know I've heard some Mexicans, sometimes they call each other moro. It's like a nickname, but only for specific groups of people. And that's what Majoero means. And that's why you can't really find a translation for it. So I had to do a lot of digging just to get that little bit of info. So it's a term that they call each other on that particular island, or anything from that island. But if you Google it by itself, you're going to get a cheese that's going to pop up that's made from goat's milk. But just a little bit about this particular breed is it was a watch, or it was a cattle dog. And like I said, again, it's close to extinction. And I think it's probably close to extinction because of the recreation of the Presa Canario. Because in order to make a Presa, you've got to breed different various breeds into that specific dog. So when you do that, you're causing the population to dwindle down. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that is why that dog is on the verge of extinction. I have seen a couple people, I think I follow a guy on Facebook who has and breeds the Majoero, the Bardino Majoero. But I don't know too many people that even talk about it, or really, you don't even really hear people even really acknowledge it so much more than other, that it's, you need that to make a Presa. If you don't have it, you can't make a true Perro de Presa Canario. So I think recreating that dog has been drowning out the gene, because if there's only a couple people breeding true to that specific breed and everyone else is focused on the recreation of the Presa Canario, then it would only make sense. So like I said, if that breed goes away, we'll never be able to recreate or even create new bloodlines. I mean, it would still take a long time to do that, but we would never be able to do it if we lose that breed. So, that's why we got to start thinking and being careful about what we're doing with these standards. To me, we should have one standard, and that's what everybody should follow. This doesn't make sense that, like I said, FCI, UKC, and then the 1989 standard from Las Palmas have similar aspects, but then they have some things that are not similar. So, again, that's not good for any breed. Mm-hmm. Another interesting thing about the Bardino Majoero is in itself, it's like a mutt. It's a cross between some native dogs that were already on the island and some dogs that the Spaniards brought over. And who knows, what those dogs really were, because there isn't really anything documented about them. And sometimes this dog even has double spurs on its hind legs, which you don't see that in most other breeds. So, it's got some genetic deformities that it's passing on. And it's got a very, very strong and dominant personality, to the extent of the dog being extremely dangerous in its own right to anyone or anything it does not know. It has no problem going after it. And again, like I said in the first part of the video, that is where the Presa Canario's temperament comes from, not the other dogs. It comes from this dog, which lets you know that this is the base dog. And you cannot, in my opinion, you can cross two breeds together, but that's, I don't know, I guess, I don't even really know how to term that. In my opinion, if you don't have a base dog to breed back to, kind of like with the Dogo Argentino, where they called it, the killer of Cordoba. There's another name for it, I just can't think of it right now. Everything was always bred back into that specific dog, because that was the base dog. So there was something in that dog that they wanted to make sure got passed on every single time. And that's the same thing with the Bardino, it is the base dog, and that is where the reason that most people like a Presa is because of its attitude. So if we lose the Bardino and we ruin these dogs, listen to me, people, then that what you love about this dog is going to go with it because, like I said in the first part, the dog is already being watered down. Whether people want to admit that or not, but most people will know that. And I think that's why you have so many kennels and so many people that can't get along. They don't like this guy. They don't like this guy. They don't like this girl. She don't like them. They're doing this, that, and the other. Such and such doesn't do this. There's so much of that, and that shit really doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is us working together to preserve not only this breed, but all breeds to the standard. Like, what is the point of drawing up a standard if we're not going to follow it? Now, and before I get my next point about the quote-unquote rustic Presa, or what I like to call the trending Presa, and I just want to finish up a little bit more about the Bardino. Like I said, it's extremely aggressive. Great guard dog for property and for livestock, and it's extremely confident and extremely intelligent, and it's very independent. And you see all of these qualities in the Presa. And because it is all of those things, and especially being very independent, it's a dog that definitely needs firm training. It has to be well regulated because it's all those things would equate to having a stubborn dog, and that's what a lot of people sum it up with. The Presa is very stubborn, so is the Bardino. So when you have a breed like that, you might want to go right. You got to make sure you're going left. Because like I said before, if you're not careful, this dog will take over the yard and he'll take over the house. And then you're going to have a dog that you're scared of, and now you're going to give the dog a bad rap because if it attacks you or your kids or your neighbors, they're going to look at you, they're going to look at the breed like they always do, and the first they're going to call it a pit bull. That's what they always do.
Right.
And then they're going to, it wasn't a pit bull, it was a Perro de Presa Canario, one of the top 5 dangerous breeds in the world, and they're going to give you that rundown. You know what I mean? And there's no telling what kind of information. These dogs are crossed with pit bulls and da-da-da-da-da. That's what the media, the fourth branch of the government gets paid to lie. And and they're great at it. And then that's what they're going to do. And they're going to ruin it for everybody. This breed, the Presa Canario, some insurance companies don't even want to give you homeowners insurance if you have it. So, because it's gotten that bad rap. I mean, my dogs are insured on my house. I just told them I got Mastiffs. That's broad because you have all kind of Mastiffs, Bull Mastiff, English. But I kind of had a feeling if I told them that they were going to be like, oh yeah, we don't insure that breed. So then if something happens in my house, like I'm kind of ass out. Like I want to replace my dogs. I also have health insurance on them. And I don't know if I said this. I think I did say this in the first part. But listen, people, like this is kind of off topic a little bit, but if you have these bigger dogs, please get insurance on them. Like, it's not, especially if you're like, I'm a top breeder, and this, that, and the other, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and you're selling dogs for high dollar to people. Like, why would you not want to health check your dogs? Why would you not want to pinhit them? Your insurance will cover that shit. I'm telling you, MetLife, I don't know about the other ones, but I'm pretty sure Nationwide and MetLife cover that. So, stop charging people $4,000 and $5,000 on dogs that you just assume have good hips. Because that's not fair. It's not fair.
100%.
It's not fair. And now, if you're just getting a dog or you got a dog and it's in your house and you're not planning on really doing anything with it, I'm not saying that you still don't want a healthy dog, but you're not out there saying that you got the top dogs in the world and this, that, and the other. And because, everybody's got the number one breed of everything. Everyone's the number one bully breeder, the number one Presa breeder. It's like 30 number one. I'm like, how the hell is the whole purpose of being number one is because there's only supposed to be one. So, but everybody's number one. But you used to get guarantees back in the day for hips, like 12 to 18 months for hips. Something happened to the dog, a good breeder would replace the dog. A lot of these breeders ain't doing that shit no more. They're not even mentioning that. And I guess it's because maybe us as buyers on that end, maybe because we're letting them slide. We're not asking for it anymore. But I always ask, like I gotta know, especially if you're talking anything over $1,000, I gotta see some record. At least let me see. Have you even taken this dog to the vet? You know what I mean? Like I gotta know because it may sound funny and it may sound like it's common sense to do these things, but we all know that common sense is a superpower, and most people don't have superpowers. I'm sorry. If you're offended, it might be you. I'm sorry, dude. I'm not here to sugarcoat or water down anything, man. You know, I got guys in my DMs talking shit, and I got guys in my DMs praising me for this interview and other interviews that I've done. So, you know, like my shit says, like, hate, comment, subscribe. Like, I don't care. I'm gonna. That's why I did this part 2 the way I did it, so no one can go back and say that I said something or I tried to make something up. I read this shit directly from the websites that I took, and I printed it all, and I had it all sitting out on my screen. So, you know, from now on, and anyone who's watched my videos, you know that's how I do my stuff. I have my notes up there so you can see what I'm looking at. It's transparent, and a lot of these breeders are not being transparent about what they're doing.
Facts.
If I'm paying you that kind of money, then I need transparency, or I'm not going to spend money with you because I should be comfortable. I'm not going to try to enable you on the price. I'm not going to look for, if you say that you want $5,000 for this dog and you can show me that it's worth that, I'm going to give you that. You know what I mean? Because if you say it's worth it and you show me it's worth it, it's got good health, then I just make me feel comfortable giving you. That's not, I don't care how much money you have in the bank or you don't have. That's a lot of money to give someone for an animal that could possibly be ruined. Because if you don't know, hip dysplasia is genetic, but it doesn't have to be genetic. You can cause your dog to get hip dysplasia by putting too much fat on the back. Or, you know,
1,000%. 1,000%.
So and then you're wondering why, like, oh, he didn't have hip dysplasia in the line. Okay, well then that means it's just not genetic. Now you've created a problem. So that surgery costs $15,000. Being cheap is expensive. That's what I'm going to tell you.
And not only that, even though the surgery is $15,000, your dog's still going to look like garbage after the fact. The way it walks, the way it limps, it's going to constantly have a limp. That's a big problem in the Rottweiler community. Like I said before, mine, 100 pounds. He ranges from 90 to 100, but he never had a hip issue, a joint issue, none of that, and he's still bulky, athletic, the whole nine. When people tell me, oh, I got a 180-pound Rottweiler, or whatever they say, it's just like, bro, your dog is a train wreck. It's round. It doesn't even look like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Exactly. It looks, yeah, you got a big Rottweiler, but it's not big in the way you want it to be big, bro.
Right. And we see that with a lot of breeds. You know, American Bullies, like you said, Rottweilers, Borables. I mean, there's a lot of dogs that are, even Bull Mastiffs, man. And I'm just like, dude, it's not hard to, if you really love this animal, it's not hard to do the right thing. If you're spending that kind of money, I would hope that you would do the right thing. But, you know, just like I told you with this new house that I bought, you would think that people would take care of their stuff, but they don't. So because someone else was being cheap, you know, now I'm $40,000 in on this house for repairs. But that's okay. I'm going to get this shit done. It's not a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, but whatever. We'll get it done. Whatever. Cool. So, you know, come on, people. If you think that you've got the best shit, then that's your reputation. And unlike with reptiles, I don't mind keeping a clutch or a litter, because we do have litters. Any snake that has live birth, we call that a litter as well. It's easier for me to keep 20 or 30 snakes in a room. But imagine being stuck with 13 puppies in a litter because you fucked your reputation up. You're gonna really be able to keep those dogs? You're gonna be on Craigslist trying to give those dogs away.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because nobody's gonna want them. Nobody's gonna want them. So the only thing I could even advise, like, either you're gonna try to give them away. If you can't afford to feed all those dogs, man, hell, I don't know. Shit, you might have to turn them into dog food. I mean, I'm not gonna get mad at you for saying that shit, but I mean, what are you gonna do with 13 dogs? And let's say you already got 5 or 6 dogs on your property. So now you got almost 20 dogs that you got to feed every single day. You're going to want to go out and work and walk those dogs because you're going to start getting lazy. Like I said, you can't get rid of the dogs, this, that, and the other because you were cheap and you were trying to make a quick buck, and now you fucked yourself.
100%.
And you know, in the dog world, it's easy to get canceled. In the reptile world, they say they're going to cancel you, but they ain't really got that kind of power. It's all talk. In the dog world, you can cancel yourself. You know, once people see that he's got hip dysplasia. Oh, he ain't doing what? Oh, he didn't. Oh, really? Oh, okay, yeah. Now I'm gonna tell everybody I know, and that's real shit. So, but anyway, so let's jump into this rustic Presa Canario. Let me go back and say that again. This quote unquote rustic Presa Canario, what I like to call the trendy Presa Canario. And that is Presa Canario now, and I'm not saying that they're not Presa Canarios. I'm not saying that. So if anybody's saying, who's doing that is not what I said. But that is, right now, a version of the Presa Canario that is 20% or more white. So it could be all the way up to 95% white. And, you know, there were dogs, and I see, and when they watch this, they'll see dogs from the islands. You know, just again, and before I continue with this, so when you guys are watching and Eric puts these pictures up, and there's also, you're going to see some names. Those are regions in Canario and Tenerife of other kennels that you probably didn't even know existed, because all you ever hear is, Curto, Juan Carlos, Barnack and Bull, places like that. But there were other stuff going on over there as well. I mean, almost everybody was breeding Presa Canarios at one time or another between those two islands. And, you know, some people want to argue, well, I've only had one person try to argue, and that was just recently, that Juan Carlos never owned a Presa Canario, not even one, but he didn't have any proof of it. So, didn't want to do an interview either, so, you know, I kind of had to write him off. Because if that what he was saying was true, I want to know that. I would want to know that, because then that means, you know what, I got to start back from square one and start doing my research. But if anybody goes to Ray Gladiator, or you look up Juan Carlos online, it's all associated with the Presa Canario, and Iwa did an interview with him where he said he bought dogs from Pacific Islands in the Canary Islands, and one dog was more so geared towards fighting, and the other dog was geared towards guard, and he started crossing them both to get the perfect dog that he wanted. So someone said that Juan Carlos never owned a Presa Canario, but he didn't have any proof. So if you don't have any proof, I'm just going to have to assume that you're jealous, you're a hater, or you're lying. But if you got proof, show me that. I want to see it. Because I'll go back and be like, hey man, you know, I did say this, but that's because I saw that, and then somebody showed me this, and this is some actual proof right here. But until I get that, this is how I got to continue. So
before anybody jumps into the comments, say that again. Say that again. Say that again. Say it one more time.
So it's. I mean, well, here let me say this, dude. You can dispute anything that I'm saying. I have no problem with that, as long as you got proof, and be respectful about it. You know what I mean? Just be respectful.
Don't be a dick.
I'm a guy that likes to learn. So if you say you got something that I don't know, see, the way I am, I like info, because info is the most important thing. It makes everything go around. Nothing happens without information. So if I've been getting wrong information all these years, and you got something, I want to see it. You don't have to be a dick or an asshole about it. You know, guy all in my DMs talking crazy, this, that, and the other. And then I asked a few people about him, and they're like, dude, that dude's an alcoholic, and he's crazy. Don't even waste your time with him. You know, so... But yeah, you don't have to come here and disrespect anybody. I didn't disrespect anybody. And, you know, I'm hoping that people can read between the lines in the first part when I said certain things, because we just can't say certain things on record right now. You know, but if you think that I said something wrong or you want to discredit me, you are more than welcome to hop in my DMs, or we can come on my channel and I'll stream you. I ain't got no problem with that. I have no problem with it, but don't be disrespectful to my homie's channel. You know what I mean? Especially because he's just doing an interview. So if he felt that, you know, I had enough knowledge to come and do this, then, you know, that's what he felt. If he felt that you didn't or you did, then you'd be on here too. And I think that's kind of what it was.
I'm glad you said that.
You know,
I'm really glad you said that. Honestly.
You know, everybody, I got to... No, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. Yeah,
I was just gonna say, no, it does to an extent, because I don't let too many things bother me. But I've been doing this almost 2 years, and yeah, I know the channel's that young. It feels like forever, right? But
right.
I've been doing this almost 2 years, and it's like, man, you can keep the negativity to yourself. If there's something you disagree with, yeah, put it in the comments. I'll acknowledge it. and I'll acknowledge that I hear your point, but like you just said, I'm just conducting interviews. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to see.
Right.
And my thing is too, like I even like you only got a few presses right now. Like you're what they would call a small time breeder, or so, whatever.
Yeah,
but
I'm small batch. Everything I do is small batch. Reptiles, my canopy, everything that I do is small batch. This is how I am.
The point is, though, yeah, me too. Yeah, like I said, for my Borbal band dog cross that I want to do, I'm really taking my time before I select a female to even. I still got to do his hip and joint testing and make sure everything's straight. So far, he's great, but I completely agree on that end. But my thing is like don't be a dick about it in the comments. You know what I mean? Like you don't gotta be a fucking asshole. Like and usually I don't even allow cursing on the channel because But like yeah, I'm not gonna edit this because you touched on something that's kind of been not bothering me, but it's a little itch that I wanted to scratch. That you really don't gotta be a dick about it. You don't gotta be a fucking asshole when you jump into the comments. If you have something to say, say it. If you can enlighten us somehow, that's what this channel's for. I'm sure that's what your channel's for. That's what this is. If you can enlighten us somehow and show us something we don't know, that's why. I
guarantee you, Eric would give you an interview if you had been respectful. Yeah. I know he's gonna listen to this. I know he is. There's no way that he's not. So.
I don't know what. Is there somebody? I don't know if there's somebody specific.
Yeah. If you had said it in a respectful way, and you were like, "Hey, I actually got some proof of this," there's no way in hell that he wouldn't have been like, well, "You know what? Then I need to talk to you because I'm just going off what I know and what I've researched. I'm not making anything up." He even accused me of like, "Oh, you said you had Corvino. You got dogs from Corvino." This is what happens when you don't listen. You weren't even listening to what I said. I said that someone told me, so apparently according to this person, that there's no way that you can have a Corvino dog. So anyone who might have some Corvino dogs or some old Mason Hog dogs or Carver dogs on their pedigree, according to this guy, you're liars. You can't have them because Joe Corvino died. Well, a lot of these guys are dead, but their bloodlines still live on. I know there's still Corvino dogs out there. Like, what are you talking about?
I mean, you can get there's dogs from every bloodline that are still still there now. I mean, I've gotten some pretty crazy dogs over the years, but I mean, hell, look at Lee. I mean, Bert Sorrells is dead, but because of Lee Robinson, Lee Robinson, Mickey Smith, Mad Dog Parker, they still have yards of them. You know what I mean? Like they're still very much in existence.
Right. Well, that's the problem is when you want to try to control everyone else's narrative because you don't have much control over your own life. So you want to try to, because everybody that I talked to was like, dude, he come in my DM trying to tell me how to run my yard and I need to close my yard off and do this and do things the way he's doing it. And then I read a comment where he's like, I think I sent it to you. He's like, yeah, I'm the world's first to do this. So I'm the world's first to line breed a defensive line of dust. That dude, motherfucker's been breeding line breeding and inbreeding and outcrossing dogs before you and I ever even thought about this stuff. Like, what are you that delusional? So, but anyway, because I know he's going to hear it. And I even tried to offer this guy an interview. I was like, look, dude, just come on. If you got proof.
Yeah, anytime. Now, this is one thing I should make, like, kind of a public service announcement. If you ever, anybody listening, if you ever want to go back and forth with anybody I've ever interviewed, we can do it. We could do the live thing and...
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, like, we could really do it because, I mean, that's kind of how my whole interview thing started. Was because I did, actually my very first interview, I want to say it was Tilo Brar. He had something to say about the Remy Line video. Because I posted it, that was one of my first videos, was about Remy Line, because Remy Martin, as far as looks, I would have wanted him a little taller, but Remy Martin, as far as looks, was perfect to me. Maybe if I could add a few inches in height, but But Tilo, who had a lot to do with that whole thing, he jumped on and wanted to talk about it, and then Fabian jumped on, the one who owned Remy. It was that back and forth is healthy.
I remember that. Right.
Even if I don't get you
respectful.
right, even if I don't get you both on at once because of whatever reason, if you got something to say and you're actually a knowledgeable dog man and you could show me that, like I said, every dog man has a seat at the table here. Even like I got guys who are flying under the radar that I still want to do interviews with, and nobody knows about them. They're just small time, like just. Just for an example, big shouts to my boy Elevated Kennels that I did an interview with. He's got some bullies and he's got some pit bulls, and by pit bulls I mean both like the weight pull stuff and the game stuff, and he's keeping everything nice and separated on his yard. But like this man, loves his dogs. Loves his dogs. He's out there on that yard day in, day out. But nobody knows about him because he's tucked in the mountains of North Carolina. So even that guy, to me, who also, has enough love for my channel that he offered me a dog, which I might take him up on, honestly. He's got a good little thing going, and nobody knows about him. But if somebody was to say, he's nobody, you need to get it from this or that, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I feel like he's somebody. Well, come on and speak your piece then. What do you know about him that I don't?
Exactly.
That's the big thing. Now there was two people that I did actually go so far as to delete their interviews, and that's after I found out and was verified on certain issues with those people, and I lost respect for them. Only two, but outside of that. Everybody has, the right to speak their piece.
Right. The comments, besides that one comment, all the comments were great, and like I told everyone who followed me on Instagram, I appreciate all the love. You know what I mean? Like I'm not here to BS anybody. I've been doing animals. That's my life, man. I want all the information that I can get, man. That is, and that's what I'm known for. Just like how Eric said, he's got people wanting to give him. I got people wanting to give me Presas because they just want me to have their dog in my program.
And for the record, for those who don't know, my good friend Rain here, when I was just getting into reptiles, I sold off my collection for the moment because I kind of want to start from scratch. But when I got into reptiles, this was the guy. This was the guy you guys are listening to that kind of, showed me the way as far as if I wanted certain genetics and this, that, and the third. I did decide that I do want to start from scratch on that front, and ball pythons are not the thing for me. I prefer the red-tailed boas, but I'm thinking some different morphs. I got some things in mind.
For sale.
You got what?
I said I got 25 morphs for sale right now. I need to move those things.
Of red tails?
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures when we get done.
Oh shit! I didn't even know. Okay.
But see, that's what they don't know because and I'm sure Eric talks to some other people offline, but we talk a lot. We talk every day. And at one point, Eric wanted to do like a battlebred canine, but for reptile.
Yeah.
And I lined him up. Within a day, I had him 20 interviews about people who would not want to give interviews for anybody else unless it was me. And I said, no, this is my guy. He's doing the channel. So
that channel didn't actually go anywhere because I had to start from scratch. I love ball pythons. They're so cool. They're so laid back. But when I got my first red-tailed boa, which I don't have anymore, but there was a snake guy, and he was all into it. Came and bought my whole collection because at the moment it was just not time to do it.
Right.
But when I had my hands on that amazing animal, the red tails, they're huge. They're chill animals. Very impressive. But yeah, definitely. When I get back in, I think red tails are going to be where I go to, because that's something that, I mean, I love snakes. I also been thinking of some cool geckos. A good friend of mine. Big shouts to my boy Mike. He's got some really nice geckos, and kind of schooled me on them. And those are some cool little animals. He has like a few different types. He even has the lychee, as they call it for short.
Yeah, the lychees. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just a cool little animal, man.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm thinking, after. Yeah, I've been working on the house crazy lately, but after I get everything tight and right, I'm going to get it to a point where just something small, a few geckos and probably a male and 2 female red tails of some good genetics. But obviously, we'll talk about that later. The people want to hear about dogs.
Right. Let's go back to this trendy Presa.
Tell me about the trendy Presa.
So right now, there's I would say a group of people who they like these dogs that have more white on them, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but you are breeding against standard. So, but I don't think that they are doing it to necessarily, maybe not on purpose, to destroy the breed. But when you do stuff like that, I mean, because we have a standard for a reason. So when you do stuff like that, then stuff starts to get lost in translation, and then, new people come in, and now they're confused about the dog and things like that, and then you push them away from it because they're reading one thing, or they're hearing one thing from one person, and then they're hearing something else from you. But there were dogs, and you will see them in these pictures when you see this interview, that had various amounts of white on them, so almost just like a patch on the face. And there's a couple dogs that I sent you. I'm not even sure if they were even really Presas. A couple of them look like American Pit Bull Terriers, and people will recognize those dogs immediately. But now you have the dog being pulled in multiple directions, and some people like it and some people don't. So you've got people disagreeing and talking trash about each other, and so now when you start doing that, there's no more education. There's no more knowledge, because now everyone's trying to outdo everyone, or try to say this guy doesn't know this guy doesn't know that, all over a dog. Like, look, if that's what you like, then that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think people should kind of stop trying to knock those guys necessarily, as long as they are. If they're gonna deviate from the standard for color, okay. So hopefully we don't start seeing these Merle dogs and stuff like that, because then I'm definitely going to be questioning your genetics. But with the white thing, I mean, that was there in the beginning, and it's still there, because obviously if you can find a Presa that's got 100% DNA and it's 80% white, and it still says that it's 100% Presa, then you can't dispute that. I mean, that is the point of us having these genetic tests for the animals. But I haven't talked to enough of those guys to know really what their goal is behind it. Maybe it's just flashy, or maybe they like it. Maybe it seems more appealing, and maybe it's more of like a sales gimmick, because people like more white on dog. Well, white isn't necessarily the lack of color, but
you know what,
maybe
though?
That's what it is.
You know what, though? Let me cut you off there. My buddy Lee made a great comment about DNA. We still got to be careful about DNA, because he could be pulling DNA from one dog and labeling it another dog before he sends it out to a company. That's another thing that people do got to look out for. It's been done a bunch. Like, it's been done a lot. They'll take a picture and say, oh, this is this dog that I'm pulling DNA from, when in all actuality they're pulling DNA from a dog across the yard.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing with, and then it's funny. That's my next topic, is paperwork and DNA. Like, does it matter? What is it really all about? That's my next topic. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to go into great detail about that, because you do have dogs that have paperwork attached to them that don't belong to them, and things like that. And then you got people stiffing you on papers, because I'm dealing with that right now. So, that's definitely something that you got to watch out for, and stuff like that. If people find out about it, like I said, that's how you end up not being able to sell any puppies, or at least not to the people that you would like them to go to. Now you got to sell to any Joe Schmo, because you need that stuff out of your yard. So now you're selling what you wanted, you may have wanted $3,000 for the dog. Now you're selling them for $300 because you just need them gone. You know, so, and the dog is going to anybody. But it's still your reputation regardless. So if something happens with that dog, they're going to blame you. You know what I mean? That's one of the first questions they ask is, where'd the dog come from? Where'd you get these dogs from? And they're going to say, I got them from so-and-so. And so then they're going to want to talk to that person and see what that person is all about and what they're doing on their yard. And if they're doing something that's less than ethical, then that person's going to get in trouble. You know what I mean? So a lot of guys, they're not thinking about that when they do these things. And I see a lot of that with the American bullies. I see a lot of that with, I know when I was in Milan for the World Dog Show, this was years and years ago, I was talking to some of the neo breeders over there, and, you know, I had one of them flat out tell me, he was like, man, if you're buying from a certain country, I don't even give you the right paperwork. That's what he told me, flat out to my face. So, you know, there it is. Some people don't have any shame about what they're doing. There's a Boerboel kennel in California. Now, as far as I know, and I don't know a lot about the Boerboel, but as far as I know, they don't come in blue. But this guy is the only guy in the world who has blue Boerboels. But if you go to his, and I wish I knew the name of his kennel, but if you go to his kennel page, he's also got solid blue Connie Corsos, and that's all he breeds, solid blue Connies. So, come on now. You already know that his Boerboel's got to be breedbacks. They have to be. Because if it doesn't come in that color, I've never seen one come in that color. You know, and I don't know the standard, so anyone who knows the standard, you know, might say they do, but as far as that I know is that they don't. But this guy's got them, and he's the only, I'm like, damn, so the South Africans ain't even got these, but you got them, huh? You know what I mean? Like, right. So, and you see that all the time. I remember when I had Facebook, I don't remember the name of the Presa kennel, but they had on their thing the rare white solid Presa Canario. You know, and again, the dog could be 100% white and still be genetically 100% Presa Canario, or it could not be. So there's so much stuff going on right now because people are trying to get more white in their program. So I'm like, okay, well, if you were breeding a standard and now you see that people are wanting these white dogs, which is why I call them trendy, so you're basically doing that to sell more dogs. Mm-hmm. And I've even had someone tell me that they haven't even been able to really sell the solid dogs anymore because anytime they get a dog that has more white than usual, those are always the dogs that are first to go. So it's definitely becoming a thing. And, you know, another point I want to make is the names. Dogo Canario, Perro de Presa Canario, Presa Canario, Canary Dog, Canary Island Mastiff. All of that shit means the same thing.
What about Cane de Presa?
Well, the Cane de Presa is Italian. So the Cane de Presa, when you get into the Cane de Presa, then you have to talk about the Sicilian Mastiff and the Neapolitan Mastiff before you even talk about the Cane Corso, even though now the Cane Corso is grouped in with those breeds. And I don't know if I told this story, so if I don't remember telling it on the first part, but I'll tell this story. So I grew up in D.C., obviously, like I said in the first part. I was in D.C., this was like 2018, and I'm walking down 18th Street in Adams Morgan, and I see this guy coming towards me, and he's got these two solid black mastiffs. Their ears are not cut, their tails aren't cut, and as he got closer up to me, I said, oh man, those are some beautiful dogs. And they were brothers, and I said, those are some beautiful dogs, man. They look like those old-style Cane de Presas. And he said, and this guy, I didn't know this at the time, but he was from Italy, and he had never heard the term Cane de Presa. So, you know, I'm telling him about it, and he's just looking at me like I'm full of it. You know, I don't know if it was because, you know, maybe I was black, maybe I was. I don't know. It could, because someone even said that probably because you was black, he didn't want to hear what you had to say. I said, well, that could be a reason, or maybe he just didn't think I knew what the hell I was talking about in general. And I was talking to him about it. He said, no, these are Sicilian Mastiffs. Now, I had never heard the term Sicilian Mastiff until 2018 from this guy's mouth. And he said he got them directly from Sicily, where he's from. That's where they were born and bred, and that's where he brought them from. So I said, all right, man, well, you ain't got to believe me. About a week later, I saw him again. And he came up to me and he apologized. He said, man, you were right. He He said, I went and looked up what you said, and there is a dog called a Cane de Presa. So there's a guy from Italy who had just what he calls Sicilian Mastiffs and didn't even know the complete history. So just because you're from somewhere or you speak the language doesn't mean that you know everything. And that was proof right there. And so I was like, I know a little bit about I know a lot about the Cane Corso. And from what I'm told is most of the people that talk about the Cane Corso are not going to tell you the truth about it. So from what I'm told, that dog it's a band dog. It's a Neo, Rottweiler, Pit Bull, or Amstaff, or maybe even American Bulldog cross. And then they sent that blueprint to Italy, and the Italians didn't like the Roddy, so they replaced it with the Boxer. And then you have the Italian Cane Corso versus the American Cane Corso.